With the number one pick in the 2022 NBA draft, Paolo Banchero headed to Orlando. So we have to check in with Locked On Magic. Philip Rossman-Reich here with us. Now, we thought we had it all figured out before the draft started, but late rumors coming out. Now Paolo is the number one pick. So what was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, obviously it was really surprising. I thought the Magic were pretty locked in on Jabari Smith. There were a lot of rumors going around here in Orlando that the Magic weren't even able to get Paolo Banchero in for a workout, and it just didn't seem like they were getting all the information that they needed. We know Jeff Waltman really likes to have a lot of information to make a decision, but he's one that plays things very, very close to the vest, so it shouldn't have been completely surprising that he'd catch everyone by surprise. This is obviously a guy that I was really high on before I was sitting in the chair. Maybe got a little nervous, but ultimately Paolo Banchero is a fantastic pick for this team.
Absolutely. Super talented, of course. Want to bring in our national hosts as well, our NBA big board guys, Leaf Tulane, Richard Stamen. Of course, we got to get their point of view on this. Richard, what is a pick like this when we think things are already stacked up, but then, Paolo goes higher than maybe we expected him to? How does that affect the rest of this board?
Yeah, it's a massive domino the rest of the night. And, you look at what Paolo does, I think the Magic might have just got their franchise changer. That's what every team at the top three was looking for. Paolo was in play really hard for the Houston Rockets. So now they're forced to go to another direction, and really shapes up the whole night just from this one domino of a smokescreen.
Philip, when you look at the current roster that the Magic have, obviously they have a ton of young talent, but adding someone like Paolo, what do you think he's going to be able to do right out of the gate, and what do you think he'll be able to add to this team?
Yeah, even in all my pre-draft information, I really believe Paolo Banchero is going to be the Rookie of the Year. He is the most ready to be an impact scorer and just create stats, and that's really the biggest thing that he adds to this team. My favorite kind of Magic trivia question is the last non-center to average 20 points per game or more in a Magic game was Steve Francis back in 2005. They've just not had a lot of perimeter scoring. I know some people think Paolo Banchero is more of a traditional big, but he is someone that can attack off the wing, can score from the low post, the mid post, can step out to the three-point line. He's someone that should be able to score at all phases, score in isolation, do all the things that you expect primary scorers to do, and that's something this Magic team desperately needed, and something that you hope to get out of a number one pick.
Leaf, nationally, when you look at the Magic, obviously they haven't had a ton of success as of late, but of course they have a lot of young talent on this team. So kind of going forward, how do you see the team developing, and will this be something where maybe veterans will want to come play with these younger players?
Yeah, I think Paolo Banchero is the most NBA-ready talent. I had him ranked number one on my board, so I think he's the most transcendent player. He can alter the franchise the most of any of these that people were speaking about in him, Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren. So I don't know if he can attract veteran players to come play with this core immediately. I'm not sure he gets them out of the lottery immediately, but I think he's going to be the best player out of this this draft class, and not much less those three. And I believe that he'll be able to elevate this franchise, and that the pieces they have can make the Magic contenders in a few years' time. I'm not sure it's immediate, but I think this is a step in the right direction. I really like the way the Magic front office handled it.
And Philip, just one more thing. I mean, obviously we want to see what Paolo's able to do when he joins this team, but what are some other additions? Is there some roster moves that need to go along with this so that Orlando can really benefit from having this kind of talent on their squad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing that the Magic need now is shooting. You gotta surround an ISO scorer with guys that he can get the ball to, that'll be open and can hit an outside shot, and three-point shooters that can space the floor. I think that was one of the big reasons why everyone seemed to think Jabari Smith would be the pick. So the Magic have to continue to find some shooting. Obviously, they have the center in Wendell Carter who can step out to the three-point line a little bit. Franz Wagner is an improving three-point shooter. Adding some more shooting will make everyone's life easier, and that's got to be the focus now. The team should feel like it can have a pretty good defense moving forward. Now they got to find the offense to go with it.
We're only one pick in. We've already got a bunch of drama happening so far in this draft. We do want to see a little bit more about what we saw Paolo Banchero obviously at Duke, but just to get a little bit more perspective of what he brings to an NBA team, we're going to check in with Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson has more.
Forward, Duke University. Paolo Banchero was one of the most dynamic players in all of college basketball last season. I'm JJ Jackson, the host of Locked On Blue Devils. Banchero helped lead Duke to the Blue Devils' first outright ACC regular season title since 2006. His toughness, strength, offensive versatility, including the ability to get all the way to the rim, have the NBA thrilled about another Duke player entering the league. Paolo Banchero, Duke University.
With the number 2 pick in the 2022 NBA draft, Chet Holmgren is indeed going to Oklahoma City. We're going to check in with Locked On Thunder host Rylan Stiles. First of many times, I'm sure we'll be checking in with him tonight. After that, kind of a bit of a surprise with Paolo Banchero going number 1. Oklahoma City stays the course. They take Chet Holmgren. Were you surprised that with that shakeup at 1 that they stayed with Chet?
Yeah, it was shocking to get the pick between Jabari Smith Jr. and Chet Holmgren. Jabari Smith only working out for OKC in Orlando, so for him to fall was surprising. But Chet's been the Thunder's guy all along, and so when Sam Presti lays down somebody, you got to trust him because he's never missed inside the top 10. So hopefully that record stays, and he'll have Chet Holmgren at number 2, and that's been his guy all year. So we'll see how it works out.
All right, we're going to bring in our national guys from Locked On NBA Big Board, Richard Stamen, Leaf Tulane. Richard, I'll start off with you. When you look at Chet Holmgren's game, what is the impact he's going to be able to have in the NBA right away? Does he have to put on some weight first, or do you think he can kind of make the transition seamless?
Yeah, while he does need to add weight, he is noticeably skinny. The big benefit with Chet Holmgren is you look at his playmaking ability. It was hidden at Gonzaga. He played next to arguably the best big man in the country, Drew Timme, who had the ball in his hands a lot. So Chet Holmgren didn't get to show a lot of that playmaking ability that he did in high school to make him the number 1 recruit. On top of that, he's a great defender, probably the best instincts I've seen since I've started doing in-depth scouting of the NBA draft on defense. So very high on that. He fills a need. And on top of that, you look at the transition ability. That was when he was at his absolute best at Gonzaga. He is a walking mismatch. Anytime a center is the one bringing the ball up the floor, we've seen this with Nikola Jokic, which is what makes him so great. And I'm not comparing the two, but that ability in transition, it automatically throws off the defense. And it gives quick offense a huge advantage to Oklahoma City now when Chet is the one initiating offense.
Rylan, obviously the team has a bunch of picks, so there's a couple more dominoes to fall into place. But how do you see him fitting in, Chet Holmgren fitting in right off the bat and helping out this team?
Yeah, his rim protection is going to be huge. The Thunder prioritize defense in a huge way, and so being able to play on defense out of the gate is a big deal for the Thunder. And you saw them last year have Josh Giddey start from day 1 all the way through the rest of the season until he got hurt after the All-Star break. So I bet he'll be the same way starting from game number 1 for the Thunder. And his three-point shooting adds a lot to the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA. So I think that he'll have a lot of repetition in his first NBA season.
Leaf, when we saw that Paolo was going to go number 1, did you feel like it was the right move for Oklahoma City to stay with Chet, or should they have considered Jabari Green more seriously?
I think going with Chet was the right move. I think it provides a backbone and especially a guy to defensively alter the franchise, as they've got a lot of good athletes and they have guards in place. So I don't think the offense that Jabari offers is as alluring as the defensive game that Chet offers for the Thunder going forward. And I also think that Chet's got a lot more offensive potential, as Richard described, talking about his playmaking capacity, but he also is a very good shooter, even in a limited sample size. He's not Jabari level shooting, but he's a good shooter in his own right, good touch from the free throw line, rolls, he's got good instincts. And defensively, I think he's a game changer. If he can put on weight, he'll be able to guard the big boys. But also on the perimeter, he's able to make them so versatile and offer a lob threat and a pick and pop threat for guys like Josh Giddey and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I expected this pick to happen, and I think it's the right pick, even with Jabari Smith, who was the popular idea number 1 pick being on the board. But I had Chet Holmgren higher, and I agree with Sam Presti sticking to his guns and taking Chet.
Rylan, Sam Presti has a lot more to do, a lot of picks coming up. What kind of position or needs does this roster need to address with the next couple of picks, or either trading or through free agency?
Yeah, I think that you're looking to add some shooting to this roster because the Thunder, again, were dead last in shooting last year. But the Thunder typically look for versatile guys who can all play, make, and grab and go on the rebound. So anyone who fits that bill is a likely pick for the Thunder.
All right, now as to what exactly Chet Holmgren is going to bring to this next level, obviously he had a huge impact in college, so we're going to check in with Locked On Zags, Andy Patton, for a little bit more.
Center, Gonzaga. One of the most tantalizing prospects in recent memory thanks to his unique blend of skills. I'm Andy Patton, the host of Locked On Zags. Chet was nicknamed the Unicorn because of his incredible length, his shot blocking ability, his guard-like skills handling the ball, and of course his knockdown shooting from the perimeter. Chet will make an instant impact in the NBA on the defensive side of the ball, and while concerns about his frame still exist, there's little doubt he will develop into one of the best two-way big men in the entire league in a short matter of time.
As recently as Thursday afternoon, Jabari Smith was the number 1 overall pick until it was time to make the picks, and then all of a sudden he wasn't, and he falls to the number 3 spot with the Houston Rockets. To break this pick down, joining me now, Jackson Gatlin from Locked On Rockets. And Jackson, this is part of the craziness we saw at the top of the draft. What are you seeing now from this Rockets team with Jabari Smith?
First off, Peter, so much insanity at the top of this draft, right? Just a crazy 24 hours, the lead up to it. And frankly, this was the guy that I had at the top of my draft board well throughout the pre-draft process, but I was resigned to the fact that, hey, the Rockets are still going to get a good player with Paolo Banchero at pick number 3. The fact that Jabari Smith fell not only out of position at number 1, and then OKC also passed up on him at number 2, the Houston Rockets got gift wrapped, to me, the best player for this organization. You can slot in next to Jalen Green, next to Alperen Şengün, and he is going to bring so many amazing skills to the table. Hyper elite three-point shooting, all NBA caliber defender who's going to be able to guard positions 1 through 5 and basically bring a new defensive tone to this Rockets team. This is a huge win for the Houston Rockets.
Let's bring in our NBA drafts gurus from the Locked On NBA Big Board, Rafael Barlow and Sam Ferris. And Rafael, I'll start with you. When you look at Jabari Smith, did you think he should have gone before number 3?
I actually had him number 3 on my big board, so it worked out for me. I was riding the Banchero bandwagon all year long, but I think for Houston, it's a good fit. Like Jackson said, you get the combination of offense and defense to be able to and he's the best shooter in this class. And so I think for Houston, you have to feel like you got the number 1 pick if you're the Rockets.
Sam, you had, I thought, a very apt comp for him given what we just saw in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, that's right. I actually comp him to Klay Thompson, but like 3 inches taller, both because of the elite shooting, but also the ability to slide his feet on the perimeter defensively, a la, prime Klay Thompson. But when we're talking about elite shooters with size over the last 15 or so years in the draft, it's Jabari Smith and Kevin Durant. Like, he is that level of a shooter. And so, we can debate Paolo or Jabari, but in terms of fit between Jalen Green and Şengün, Jabari Smith is an elite fit, and he's a great player.
Jackson, I want to ask you to expound on that fit a little bit. We saw Jalen Green, and I think people who did not watch a lot of Rockets basketball had this perception that he was a chucker. I don't think that's what he was, and by the end of the season, I thought he had developed a really nice secondary playmaking game. What do you see as his role this season with Şengün and Green?
Yeah, I think when you look at Jalen Green and just the growth that he had as the season went along, I do think he's maybe a bit of an underrated playmaker at this point. He showed some significant flashes with the ball in his hands, creating for his teammates. But the number one thing that we found out with Jalen Green, and as it relates to Jabari Smith, is Jalen Green is the future franchise cornerstone for this. He is that guy. He is going to be your focal point, your number 1 option every single night. Put the ball in his hands. He's going to get you buckets, or he's going to create for his teammates. And having a guy like Jabari who can feed off of that, who can feast off of all the attention that Jalen Green is going to generate, Jabari's going to get some of the easiest shots of his career, something that didn't exactly happen at Auburn, unfortunately, for him. He had to work on a lot of those possessions. So now playing next to Alperen Şengün and Jalen Green, Jabari's going to average like 20 a game. It's going to be ridiculous.
For more on this exciting young Rockets core, you can check out Jackson on the Locked On Rockets podcast. And for more on what had been the presumptive number 1 overall pick, Jabari Smith, here's our friends over at Locked On Auburn.
Smith, forward, Auburn. Smith was the best shooter in all of college basketball last season. I'm Zach Blackerby, host of Locked On Auburn. Jabari instantly became Auburn's highest-rated recruit of all time when he signed with the program, and then he ended up carrying his team to the SEC championship last season. His length, defensive aggression, and his ability to shoot from anywhere on the floor will have the NBA excited about him being one of the future superstars in this league.